Does the move to Haas give him a sort of better opportunity and a better chance at potentially moving to Formula One?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was a little surprised by how well Ryo Hirakawa performed in his FP1 session. I know when, obviously he's a Japanese driver, and at his home track at Suzuka, you definitely want to show up and show out at any time you're given opportunity to race in FP1. But if it's at home in Japan, this is where you want to show up. And it seemed like that's exactly what he did. 12th fastest, is something for him to be extremely proud of. Yeah, he was able to do that, take care of the car, while Jack Doohan, ended up crashing the car, and the team had to spend a lot of time repairing it. So if you're the one taking care of the car, and one of the other drivers who's in the seat full time is wrecking the car, that's something you can be happy about from his end. And it's really interesting to see the moves Ryo Hirakawa's made within the last year. Yeah, as mentioned, Josh, he was with McLaren in 2024. Then he left McLaren at the start of this year. He was with Alpine, so he literally did FP1 at Suzuka, and then like 48 hours later, or not even that, maybe 36 to 48 hours later, it was announced that he's moving over to Haas. So he left Alpine right after his FP1 session, going to Haas, and based on what we know, he's going to get some more FP1 running later on in the season. You say Bahrain this weekend and a few other Grand Prix as well. I think that's really huge for him to be able to get more seat time in the Formula One car, especially since, it's obvious that Franco Colapinto is one of the favorite reserve drivers at Alpine. I know they have a few reserve drivers, so Ryo Hirakawa, maybe he didn't have many opportunities to get additional F1 seat time over there. So moving to Haas, maybe it makes it more realistic for him to potentially go to Formula One someday, especially, if Ollie Bearman continues to excel, and if Esteban Ocon, isn't able to deliver results, maybe Hirakawa could put himself in the conversation for a race seat alongside Ollie Bearman in 2026. Who knows? Stranger things have happened, but aligning with Haas really makes sense given their new alliance with Toyota Gazoo Racing, and we know Ryo Hirakawa is a Toyota Gazoo Racing driver in the World Endurance Championship. So this partnership makes a whole lot of sense for him to align with Haas, especially since Toyota really wants to try to get one of their Toyota-backed drivers into Formula One at some point. I know they have Ritomo Miyata in Formula 2, but it seems like that young kid is, a ways away from becoming a Formula One driver, given all the struggles he had last season. I think Miyata, he's probably going to have to, go lights out this year in Formula 2 if he wants to try to get an opportunity to go into F1. But right now, it seems like Ryo Hirakawa is in the lead for that right now.
Yeah, he looks to be the next Japanese hope coming through. It's just, I didn't realize how low down I was. Coming through, does Hirakawa. It is strange for him to be, what would be rerunning 2 different free practice sessions at 2 different tracks within a week of each other for 2 different teams. Surely that's not been done before. But I guess he goes where Toyota tell him to go. Surprised it hadn't happened earlier, because where did we have this Toyota stuff come out? October, September, didn't we, last year with Haas? So at least quite surprised that it's taken them so long to shift this across, but I'm guessing there was a lot of moving pieces in that puzzle. And you mentioned one of them, Kobe Colapinto, who perhaps his chances to get a race seat sometime soon with Alpine may have accelerated slightly after Jack Doohan's acceleration towards the tyre barrier at Suzuka on Friday. And maybe that's another reason why they've moved him across, because they want him to get some more seat time. And then I guess, as you mentioned, Josh, he's going to have this weekend, and then he'll be probably in full WEC mode all the way through until he gets back in the car in Mexico at the end of the year. So more moving of the pieces of the junior categories and the reserve driver puzzle. But it didn't surprise me that this has happened. It just surprises me that it's taken Toyota quite some time to have this move made.
It may not seem more traditional for a driver from sports car racing to get opportunities like this, but Hirakawa does have years of open wheel racing experience in Super Formula. He's also a 2-time Le Mans hypercar class champion in the FIA World Endurance Championship with, as we say, Toyota Gazoo Racing, and overall, of course, a winner in the 24 Hour of Le Mans, with hypercar being the top class there. Now, two other sports car regulars also previously got opportunities to race in Formula One. They were Andre Lotterer and Brendan Hartley. Now, Lotterer made his F1 debut in the 2014 Belgium Grand Prix with Caterham while he was still an Audi LMP1 driver in WEC. Now, Hartley made his debut in late 2016 and ran one full season in 2017 with the team now called, of course, Riza Kashap Racing Bulls. So, Matt, back to you on this one. Why do you think drivers who made a name for themselves in sports car racing don't seem to last long in F1 or even really get opportunities?
Well, I think it all kind of came about, didn't it, once we went to the hybrid F1 era, because we'd been running hybrid in the WEC for a few years before that, as you mentioned, with Brendan and with Andre coming across, although Andre's was a bit ill-fated at Spa and he only did, 6 laps or whatever it was in the race before the car broke down. That was the kind of the bringing of these guys, and now it's gone a little bit away from that, and I feel like more of the, maybe this is a Liberty thing, perhaps. Maybe they're trying to focus in on the F3, F2, F1 ladder, bringing people through and getting the teams to bring in their junior drivers that way, rather than what it used to be when Bernie was running the show and he'd be bringing Villeneuve in from IndyCar or Montoya coming back or Zanardi even, or any of those kind of deals going on. It is more focused on the team and their progression through the ladder system now, rather than bringing people across from sports cars. You never know; it may change again back in a couple of years' time, when their teams are bringing people in. There's a good crop of young guys coming through in the sports car sort of sphere, as we'll talk about, I'm sure, through the year with the Grid Endurance Performance Index. But it does seem to be tending to go back now to the stepping progression of F3, F2, and then into Formula One.
I got 2 comments from Adam Limerick in the chat. Adam says that you've always had loads of respect for the Japanese drivers that have competed in Formula One. Good luck to Ryo at Haas F1. Yeah, no, had Kamui Kobayashi was, a Formula One driver in the past. Got Yuki Tsunoda right now. Ritomo Miyata is trying to get in there, and I believe this weekend in FP1, I think is Waz's from the Red Bull Super Formula program. He's going to be in Max Verstappen's car in FP1, so another Japanese driver right there getting an opportunity to get some seat time as well. And he also said, most notably, I'm probably going to butcher his name, but is it Ukayo Katayama and Aguri Suzuki? He said they've also competed in F1 as well, some other Japanese F1 drivers. And I agree with what you said, Matt. They've been mostly focused on the road to F1 ladder program, Formula 3, Formula 2. So that's why you mostly see drivers from Formula 1 come from those series versus sports car racing, because usually when you have experience in open wheel racing and go off the sports cars, that's usually where you end up. And if you decide to go open wheel racing again, the only other options are really Formula E and the NTT IndyCar series. But when you go to sports cars, that usually means that the Formula One dream is completely over. But as we've seen with Andre Lotterer and Brendan Hartley, that's not necessarily the case. I think there's a lot of good drivers right now in IMSA's GTP category, the World Endurance Championships hypercar class, who could definitely, get some opportunities in F1 if it were to come about. I think they're certainly talented enough, but it's definitely a lot more difficult getting those opportunities. And you mentioned Andre Lauder as well, Matt. I actually looked back at his F1 debut before tonight's show, and he actually went out on lap 1 because he had an electrical issue with the car. So very short-lived F1 debut for Andre. Only got to do 1 lap, and that was basically it for his time in F1. He was also supposed to run another race with the catering team, but I believe they wanted to put another driver in the car for FP1 that following race weekend, and Andre decided he didn't want to race anymore because he felt like as a rookie in F1, he needed to have all the track time he could get. So putting another driver in the car and then having him going for FP2 and FP3, he felt like he needed FP1 as well. So Andre did not want to run with the team again, and that was the end of his short-lived F1 career. And Brendan Hartley, when he entered, he was riding on a high, one of the top superstars in sports car racing. And he was a previously back Red Bull driver. And also at the time, that was when Red Bull's, driver, so-called driver development program, it was in shambles. I mean, when is it not in shambles, right? Yeah. So they really didn't have anyone else to put in the car at the time. So they decided to, bring Brendan Hartley back in the family, and that was that. He didn't really, perform all too well in Formula One, but he was able to come back to sports car racing, and still having a really great career. But yeah, it would be nice to see some more sports car drivers get opportunities in F1, and I would not be surprised if Ryo Hirakawa is the next one, because he really does seem to be like a super talented driver, and I'm sure Toyota would be really happy if he's able to eventually get a seat with Haas in F1, maybe as soon as 2026.
Absolutely. Now we've got 6 drivers in for free practice 1 in Bahrain, as Kobe mentioned. At Red Bull, Max Verstappen is giving up his seat for Omuma Wassa. Mercedes are putting in Frederick Vesti. Ferrari putting in Dino Boganovic. Aston Martin putting in Felipe Drugovich. Haas are, as we've said here tonight, putting in Ryo Hirakawa. And Williams are putting Luke Browning in as well. That's really going to benefit Wassa and Browning, who are going to be running the F2 practice session directly before going into F1's first practice as well. So that's going to be quite a lot to keep an eye on as well across the weekend. I know, by the way, there's about 46 different streams we're doing this weekend. So there's a lot of motorsport on.